Hey guys, it's Ted Bogert. Welcome back to the Ted Show. It's Monday, May 3rd, first Monday in May. I'm super excited. We are back. It's been a while, and I am even more thrilled to have one of my dearest friends, the talented, the amazing, how many other great adjectives can I use? The one and only Jose Belen is on the show today, and we're going to talk about healing the wounds of war. Jose's got an amazing story and an amazing journey. He does so much for our community, and he's going to share that journey with us. Welcome back, Jose. How you doing?
I'm blessed to be here. Very thankful, Ted. Just really excited about this and hoping to reach some people that this message may resonate with today.
Well, I know it's going to resonate. When I posted and finally tagged, I had several people, lots of people actually, reach out. Some people remember the first time you were one of my first guests many moons ago. And you had hair then, I think, a little bit of hair. So enough about me and that whole scenario. People want to know about you. So for those people who don't, share a little bit of your journey. They love to know your origin story and kind of why we're here today.
Absolutely. So, thank you again. I myself, first and foremost, I'm a loving father, a family man, someone that proudly served his country during wartime. I was raised in upstate New York, graduated high school in June of 2001. A few months later, 9/11 happened, and live on television, I saw the second tower get hit with my mom. And I was also born in that city from Manhattan. I was born in Manhattan. And I was already on a path towards military service. I was in the delayed entry program, so I knew I was going to serve. But when that happened, there was a level of pain, obviously, that, we felt here as a country. And so when I went to basic training in 2002 at Fort Sill, I'm a former field artillery cannoneer, red leg.
Cannoneer. I like that word.
Yeah. I'm a field artillery by trade. And when I arrived at basic training, it was pretty clear. The drill sergeant said, "We're going to train you to go to war. You don't join combat arms because you're going to go hand out candy per se only. There's a work to be done." And at a young age, I accepted that. I trained with some great men, graduated, and found myself in Germany in 2002. And less than a year later, I was part of the invasion into Iraq in the spring of 2003. Wow. I was in Iraq for my 21st and 22nd birthday. So when I got there, I was 20. And our unit was selected to secure Baghdad, but also hunt for Saddam and that Ba'ath Party leadership.
What was going on in your mind? Because I meant to, I don't think I've ever asked you this. So you're obviously pumped, you're trained, you know what to do, but what are you thinking when you go in there? Are you just so focused? Are you trained to be just focused on the mission, or are you feeling all sorts of things? Do you block that out, or do you let it come out?
Well, the warrior spirit, I say, unlocks itself on the battlefield, right? And so there's one thing to say you want to serve and you're going to do things, but then there's another thing when it's time to perform. And so, the moment, I stepped foot in the combat zone, it was accepted and understood that I will do, what God asks of me first, and that's to be a, God-fearing man and to be honorable in everything I do here. But should you, and when I say you, the enemy, put me in a position to defend or do what I have to do within the guidelines of the Geneva Conventions, how it's going to happen. And there's, a moment where it's like a werewolf on a full moon. You all of a sudden get into war, and for us, the combat, the front line, it's full moon for us the entire time we're there. And so you have to become what you more or less train, but what's inside of you is you are a warrior. And within that, there's an ethos, there's a level of thinking, performance that, yes, my best friend may be shot and killed, right next to me, and it may be horrible, but that happens here. That may be me, and he, and so there is no time, absolutely no time, for pause, for I'm scared, that does not exist. And again, he signed up for this. So a warrior knows what he's doing. And so it also, brings to real life that, let's say we're in a situation where your life is in danger. You may have no idea. And before you even have the chance to be afraid, I love you so much that I'm already taking that bullet for you before you ever had an idea your life was in danger. And so there's team building that happens. There's just so many different things. But most importantly, there's an endless amount of things that you see that are being done horribly wrong. The murdering, rape, like all these horrible things that happen in war. And the warrior has a choice. Do you become part of the problem, or part of the solution? Are you honorable in your character? And that's what helped me survive that period. I carried, children that were alive in my arms, laid them down to try to save them with the medics and the docs. And then 90 seconds later, they die in front of me and I'm carrying their lifeless body and closing their eyes. My best friend and captain were killed a few days before Christmas, an operation that we were to be on jointly together. And they chose, selflessly to take that mission on and to let me rest, which doesn't happen. And, when they were killed, it was very grotesque in the manner, so I'll keep that out. But the vehicle they were killed in needed to be destroyed. And, some of the compartments needed to be removed. And the seats that they were killed in were, had some of their remains there. And they needed a volunteer to dispose of that. And understandably, which one of the guys wants to do that? But because he was my best friend, my brother, before war, we were roommates. I picked up his seat and my captain's, and I laid it in a burn pit alone and watched their blood burn in a fire. And it was one of the coldest and saddest moments that one can go through. And that's a pain that nearly led me to the journey that, I'm still on today to help end veteran suicide.
Your ability, I can't even hardly listen to it without getting emotional, which I am. So your ability to be able to do that is also part of the journey, because I'm sure that I know what toll it's taken. So thank you for sharing that, because I think it's so important. When we as civilians, we don't realize that when we hear the things in movies, TV, they talk about how the soldier brings back so much with them, and there's so much that they have to try to figure out how to handle and process. You being able to explain that the way you just did is a beautiful thing, and I thank you for that. So that led you, though, but it wasn't. You weren't always able to do that. So that's the next part of the journey. Share with them what you feel comfortable sharing.
So as you noted, they say only the dead see the end of war. And so for us, lost our buddies in battle and couldn't save those who, we tried. And there is no leaving war here, okay? Because the mind, as we know, and what we absorb in life stays with us forever. And I was, grateful to have served honorably. I was honorably discharged. I completed my full term of enlistment, was offered an amazing opportunity in combat to dedicate my life and career long term. But I had survived, those two tours, and had 21 and 22 out here. If I leave here alive, I don't know if it's a good idea to come back. And so it was a hard decision, but I chose to leave. After my service, I completed, what you sign up for. And I left with all my digits, my arms, my legs, thank God. And the moment I got back to America, it was a struggle immediately, because when you have that full moon type thing happen in war, or the war zone becomes a jungle, it's really just savagery, especially if you're in, there's the tip of the spear, but if you are actually the tip of the spear, or you're in that level of work, there's an honor there, but there's also a responsibility. And so I struggled compartmentalizing who I became out there, which was a, completely different person of who I am today. I'm a warrior, man. I war every second of every day, and I go to battle. I don't sleep. We live, we breathe that. That's what we do. And we're such a rare breed that when we all of a sudden come back home and we're alive per se, we're really dead inside, because no matter how many awards you can give me, how many honors you can give me, that does not matter, because the objective was to come home all unified together, and we did not, because my buddies died the way they did. And then since then, the years kept compounding the hurt. You don't shut off the nightmares. The color red for me, just the color red. This is to give folks insight into how hard a combat veteran's life, for someone who's been through trauma. You don't have to be a veteran to have experienced trauma. When I carried my buddies, blood and caps, I laid it in the fire, and I just stared at it. The color red. You just think of how many times on a day-to-day basis a human being sees the color red. So from that moment, the color red to me, no matter what I saw, could never not be my buddy's blood first. And that's what you see. You could be out at a ball game with your family, putting ketchup on your hot dog, having the best day ever. And then you're there again. And it's like, that doesn't go away. And because you know what you signed up for, you did it right. You asked no pity of no one. Your buddies served with honor. Your flag, you're forever proud of it, because your brothers are buried in it. They wore a uniform that represented goodness, not anything that had to do with politics. And so that consistency led me to a journey of nearly committing suicide. Because there's reassimilation for a warrior in society, but it's kind of like taking a lion out of the jungle and then it's just trying to, here, just hop around. It's like, well, where's the explosions? Where's the danger? That's gone. And the lack of adrenaline that your body now is so used to, you're running ops for, consecutive days, is gone. And, I found myself, drinking a lot, field artillery combat. That's that, stationed in Germany. My family urged me to please get help at the VA, which I was like, I don't need help. What are you talking about? I'm fine. I was always very proud to earn my keep per se. So, I always was grateful to Walmart. They gave me my first job, and that helped save me, because it was a labor position, order filling in a distribution center. But it was Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. By Sunday, I would have completed 38 hours. So and then Monday through Thursday, I went to Fulton Montgomery Community College to get my real estate certificate. So because I was I had these personal pursuits, like I'm going to figure life out, even though this is horribly wrong, I'm still going to achieve. But I got the real estate certificate. I was working hard, but there was still, what happens here plagues you. And when you're broke, when you're successful, with the trauma you have will follow you. It's up until the point you're able to, face your trauma. Instead of that trauma chasing you every day, you now chase the trauma away. You're the trauma for the trauma. You're like, wait, he's happy. No, but that was impossible at the time. And that took me on a journey down here to Florida. I didn't want to just work in labor. I couldn't. It was crazy. They're like, you have no college and you're just a combat vet. You can never work in any type of professional environment.
That's the stuff that makes my head spin. It's so frustrating.
Right. And they're like, yeah, you work at Walmart and you're a laborer. Great. That's the line of work you're going to do. Oh, you go into war and did field artillery. You can never work you can never be a professional. You can try to go to college, but you're too fucked up in the head to be able to apply it. And then we haven't even touched on the medications.
Let me ask you, and you can continue as and you probably need a sip of water, because I've been listening, which is usually I'm asking a lot of questions at this point. But I feel like there was this, that you kind of passed over on the feelings of suicide.
Yeah.
That eventually became what we're going to talk about today. That became a mission for you to, because the average, and I don't know if it's gone up, but the average had been 22
Well,
military
it's horrendous.
a day. People's
Yeah,
average 22 of our military family, men and women, commit suicide every single day on average.
that's
So
correct.
when we talk about those feelings, when you begin to put numbers, 22 people that you know and you visualize them and they're gone that day, and then the next day it's all over again, another 22,
Yeah.
it becomes a big deal. That I feel like what you do and what other people do to bring awareness to is so critical.
Yeah.
We talk about it on the show a lot because I just feel like we can scream it from the mountaintops, but until you put a face with it and an experience with it, like you have been kind enough to start sharing with us, that
Yeah.
people just don't understand how important it is, the work that you do. So enough. That was me pontificating. I'll let you
It's no, it's a perfect segue to dovetail into what is reality. Okay, and so in the beginning, I had these struggles. Went to the VA, and they you're 23 years old, you're open minded, you're definitely not sleeping, you're definitely depressed, you're definitely pissed off for no reason, you want to go back to war, you're confused, and then they say, well, you have what is known as shell shock or PTSD. I'm like, what the hell is that? And they're like, well, post traumatic stress. But these pills are known to help you manage that. So here's Zoloft. What is Zoloft? It's got side effects. What are the side effects? Well, you can maybe kill yourself or get more suicidal, but let's not worry about that, because then there's these other ones that are going to offset your sleep. And you're like, really? So remember just being in this, like, okay, they're like, you're never going to be the same for the rest of your life. You're going to always have to have, we're going to work through the trauma, but because you were in war for almost 2 years, and this is all the things that you're going to have to manage this. And that was a nightmare that started in 06. I took my last VA regimen of medications August 2019, because
Wow.
that period of time was absolutely horrifying. When you are you're a great person, and but you've just been through some things, and then these, like, you look at a veteran, a combat vet, no different than a contractor. Some contractors go and they fix houses, and sometimes they fall and get hurt at work. Well, my type of contracting was warring, and we got hurt there, but it's a wound you can't see. Just because I have my legs and my arms doesn't mean there's not trauma there. And those medications throughout that journey, at moments that I like we all do, we need help. I found myself going into horrible, directions emotionally, like experiences I had never had before. And then you go back to the VA and they say, oh, okay, well, this is what's great. If these don't work, we're going to take you off these, and then we're going to try these. And you're like, okay, let's do that. But it gets to a point where and this is where I was at, even, in my professional environment. I worked in corporate America for 10 years for AIG, for farmers. Was very successful in that, just hardworking, earning my keep per se, but I still wanted to die every day. I still saw the girl, like when my daughter was born, I kept thinking about the child that died in front of me. And it took me years. The first time I took my daughter to a dentist appointment and later on the dentist chair, it was like all the way back. I literally, for whatever reason, it took 14 years for the trauma I just tucked in the way of the back of my head hit me the moment I laid my daughter down, because she was also in a dress, just like the girl was in a dress. And it was, and that, and you're like, what do you do in that moment? And sadly, the family element, is affected by these traumas, right? So, I have my wife and family, but the trauma journey is not just for the veteran, right? The suicide is just the suicide. Yeah, the veteran we lose, but there is a ripple effect that destroys lives. And had the gun in the mouth, gun right here, had to hold my hand while I was driving at 110 to crash into a concrete barrier, flip my car. I just wanted to die because it gets to the point where veteran says, this is the level of the rest of my life. This is it. I'm going to wash, rinse, repeat. I'm miserable. I'm making money. I don't care. I'm taking care of my family. I don't care. Taking care of my community. I don't care. Because you're constantly running from the trauma in that rat race. And so as things got really bad for my PTSD got really bad because I would stop taking the medications, because I can't do this. And then that's a train wreck, because then you're not on anything. So there's all of a sudden this just time period that a human being can go through. I was fortunate enough to not find myself, and there's no judgment here, on a different path towards drugs, heavy drugs addiction. But that's how that happens. Most folks that find themselves, I have a lot of brothers, God bless them, that are still with us today, but they're hooked. If it's not the alcohol, it's the drugs. If it's not, it's both. And then guess what? That brother or sister will be the next overdose or suicide. And it's because at some point, the realization that there's nothing for us. The thank yous on Veterans Day stay in the marketing. The mattress sales on Veterans Day is an insult when you have veterans down the street in a corner with not a house to even have a bed in. But you're going to go ahead and put mattress sales out? Who's that benefiting? You don't think that hurts?
You can swear on here. You're good.
So in all of my own personal, soldiering is amazing because, when you're in a leadership capacity, especially in war, a real leader doesn't identify that he's the leader per se. It's about the people that follow you and trust you. And so, I always took time to, train my soldiers, or when I got in a corporate, mentor agents to be better. And so in that, I always found a healing. I just felt awesome. But then I found out about veteran suicide after nearly killing myself. And again, my wife, my children, going through this and being as supportive as they can. And for many veterans, it's when the family can't take it anymore and they leave that sometimes, the suicide happens. And I was blessed that during this time, my family was always there. My friends were always there. And that's where it's like, Jose, there's a responsibility that you have to them that are helping carry you. They love you enough to stop their life, to do things to help you. But you have to help yourself. Yes, you have PTSD, Jose, but PTSD doesn't have you, man. And after the last regimen that they put me on and that whole train wreck of an experience, I knew it would take time. But I said, you know what? I'm going to get over this somehow. I'm going to research this. There has to, the fact that it is a statistically known number that we've lost more veterans since the start of 9/11. We've lost more veterans to suicide than we have if you combine the casualties of Iraq, Afghanistan, Vietnam, Korea. Okay. So, and the fact that it's talked about, it's known, that's what just, it killed me, but it also saved me because I'm like, well, dumbass, you're not killing yourself because you're surviving for a reason. Because I started meeting the brothers and sisters out there, but then I started to meeting the moms, the dads, and those who are left to never be able to put those pieces together again. And there's nobody for them. These children, my brothers that have taken their lives after doing honorable work. That is what hurts. What nearly led me to what was just doing my job. I never harmed anyone. I just stood firm, carried children, trying to save the pain of not being able to save someone's life. And when innocence is taken, and this has been happening from the beginning of time, this is why war is horrible. Do not start that shit. Innocent people will die, and they don't deserve it. And that was what clicked in my mind that says, yeah, I've been grateful to work in a corporate environment all these years, but there's just something out there that needs to be taken care of. And if that means I have to quit my job that I worked at for 10 years, the security that it's provided, and never mind you have a wife and kids to be responsible for, and I was blessed to have a supporting wife that when I said, listen, I'm going to resign, the corporation had no idea I was a combat vet going through none of this. But what I learned that time in 10 years is there was no programming for veterans in corporate. You're AIG. You are Zurich. Never mind farmers. Okay, you are a billion-dollar enterprise, and there's absolutely no programming for veterans like myself that are silently. And I also lost friends to suicide in the corporate world because of numbers game. That pressure them numbers got to be met. Right. And if you're not meeting the numbers, you're also not meeting your numbers at home. So if you have a family, you're not paying your bills. So that's where stress as a whole is not only killing veterans, it's killing people every day, because it's like, you know what? Fuck this. Right. I'm going to be miserable tomorrow.
Well, so when you stop taking the meds, the regimen, I think is what you called it, 2019, what did you know you were creative at that point? Did you have an idea? Because obviously we got a lot of love. By the way, have a lot of love going on here, which you can look at later. I couldn't look at too much of it because it was getting me all teary eyed. But you knew you needed to do something else. Yeah. You knew that you wanted to do something else. How did you make the decision that it was going to be what it is now? What was the journey there? Because I think, actually, I know there are a lot of men and women out there who have been or are currently in the same mindset you were in and have no idea how to make that next step, how to figure out what they really should be doing in order to get out of that lifestyle and try to take their life back like you did.
You literally, you have to get to the point where you say, not today, Satan. It's just, I do not know what tomorrow will look like, but I will never walk into that office again because I hate my life. And I should not live this way. And what do I want to do? I want to help save people. How? Well, I got to get the message out there. Well, how are you going to do that? Well, you got a voice, you got feet, you got a car, drive to different places. And you literally, I knocked on different doors in our land. Hey, have you heard about, veterans are taking their lives? No, oh my God, can I use your venue to speak to you? And I just like that. You literally have to take the leap of faith. And sometimes, literally, with no security, and especially if you're in corporate, if you're coming from a structured environment where you have responsibilities and all these things, and if you're going through something, if you're at that point, your life is worth more saving it than taking it and starting another career path or finding your dream than killing yourself. And so my journey to start speaking was one thing, but I was still suffering. And Memorial Day 2020, which Memorial Day is always a hard day, for some reason that day I was like, let me do something today, because traditionally we just get drunk and drown it out and hopefully be passed out before it's all over the place and firework, or it hurts us. We love Americans barbecuing. That's what my buddies died for. Celebrate that. But also know there's sometimes a veteran somewhere that is just quietly going through something. And that day, for whatever reason, it was, hey, why don't you make something? make something that your buddies can be proud of today, if and celebrate their life. And I called my best friend. I said, hey, you have a handsaw, right? He's like, yeah. I said, look, I want to make like an American flag out of wood. I seen them, and I had been gifted one. Shout out to Sharnia, for that. But I wanted to just do this because, again, the American flag to me, it means something a lot different than many people can understand. Because one, again, you wear a uniform, and that on that uniform you have that flag on your arm, and sometimes in battle you die fast, and sometimes situation's not looking good, and you kind of start having to come to terms with death. And that's okay for a war. We don't give a shit. Like, it's gonna happen. Like, my mom's probably home baking a pie. She had no idea I'm about to die. Mom, I love you. But for me, in those moments, I would look at the flag because you're so far away from home. But that your country is filled with a lot of good people that you're willing to fight for, and I represented everyone here. And it's like I'd look at every star and say, man, there's people back home. I'm about to die, and they'll never know my name, and I'll never know them. But it's like, man, it's just such an honor to, and there's no politics in those moments. There's nothing. It's just your love of country, and then your buddies die, and then what they represented and what they were about. And then, so the flag was on that day. That I was like, if I make that, I can honor them. And so got the materials, never made anything. I am just not Mr. Handy. I don't, I'm not that guy. Okay. And me going into a Lowe's that day was kind of embarrassing. I'm like, I was with my best friend, so he knew his way around. I'm like, bro, anytime we would go, he'd always be happy in there and shit. Anyway, I remember standing in line with the paint, the torch, and the wood, and I'm just looking at Junior Juve. I said, he's my best friend, my first friend I made in Florida. And I was like, I felt something in my heart. I was like, bro, I don't know. I'm so excited for this, but it's coming from a place because it's from my fucking friends, man. My butt, it's for Stewart, and it's for Captain, and then it's for the other 4 gunners that were killed out there, and then it's for, so when we got to his house, started, cutting the wood out, watched a few YouTube videos, I was like, all right, man, I'm ready. And up until that day, the color red, it's the color of field artillery, but it's also, for what happened in the war, something I always tried to I hated the color red. But when I painted the first red stripe, talk about facing your fears. Some people are scared of spiders and stuff, and you got to get around them, but for me, I needed to some point in my life get a hold of the color red. I couldn't be at a stoplight, and that, it's just, and there was a release there. I sure did cry, but there was a drive to finish it. And to this day, I can still, it's like, it's obviously there. I felt a healing, something. I never in my life, no marijuana, cannabis, I'm pro cannabis with a regimen and with a medical marijuana card that, that's something, we can look for alternatives to heal, but sometimes healing comes from God, and I'm about to be 40 in a few weeks. This is 2 years ago. So sometimes you're almost 40 years old, 10-year corporate career. You thought you knew what you were here to do. I could have still been in corporate right now, just been driving that same drive back and forth. And there's nothing wrong with that, but this message is specifically for the person that's just tired of it. And there's a way through that now, 2 years later. My art, that I make in memory of my buddies from that first flag has now turned into what today is art, by Jose Belen, that I make most certainly forever and a day, because I promised Mr. Moore when I drove 18 hours to my buddy's grave in Texas where he's buried, where Mr. Moore dug his son's grave, and I drove the 2 flags I made, presented them in person, because that's what a brother does. You look after your brother's family. I am my brother's keeper. So when my brothers are taking their lives, they're leaving mommy behind. They're leaving daddy. And you know what makes mommy happy? If a brother makes a piece of, art and says, here, out of the goodness of my heart, this is for you. Can't pay me for it, man. You're my brother's mom. And you know what? I'm blessed to say that my art hangs in homes across America and goes to our family homes, because that's what art is. Yes, it's transactional, but what is a transaction? Love first. Because it costs me my pain every time I paint. But because I know someone is going to feel better when it's done, that's, what drives me. And because my friends live through these pieces, and they're also pieces to unify during a time where our country tradition won't say is divided. And that's okay. We're not supposed to be perfect. And that's why I tell people, look for the imperfections in my work, because they're a representation of you and me, because I ain't perfect either. And that's what America is. But at the end of the day, there's a common ground. People are suffering in silence and taking their lives every day. People are drowning their sorrows in alcohol and pills. And for some people, today, in this hour, I will lose a brother or a sister. A mother will lose a son or a daughter. But most horrifying is a son will lose his daddy. A daughter will, and I know a lot of these kids now. And that's why we have to do this together. Because when a veteran, and I can only speak to the level of when I was there ready to go. I don't know why I did not go. I know, but when there's no one around and you're checked out, 7 pounds of pressure, that's all it takes for that. And it's done. It's over. Or just, I'm not promoting that. But what I'm saying is, I did not want to die in those moments. I thought about my daughter. I thought about my wife. But what I couldn't help shake was that I was a liability and a burden on my friends and my family. And because I was alive and miserable all the time and unhappy and couldn't take me anywhere, the best thing was to just go away. And that's not true. And anyone today that feels that they're alone, you're not. I'm not someone to say, do as I do, but I can sure show you the way, because a candle, they can't speak, but if there's a candle that's lit and one that's next to them that's not lit, candle doesn't lose anything lighting the candle next to it.
That's right.
It's just the effort it takes. So if you're
I love that you wrote that. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
If you, like, I walk in an element of light today. I'm a happy person. Also happy, the mindset. But if you would have met me and who I was, and so because this journey was so savage and hard and just, but there will come a point where you will be free of baggage. You will be you're free of all that, because you'll realize that sometimes I was the only person bringing combat into my life every day. But that comes at a cost, and sometimes, it's the journey. But me being in a position that I am today to use art as a facilitator, it really means that I still have a responsibility as a patriot, someone that represents that anyone that's walking in leadership today. If your life is going great, that's amazing. But you know what? It doesn't take anything to stop what you're doing and use that light and shine it at those that walk in darkness today, because you were there once, especially if you were there once and now you're balling and now you're living life and you can do it. Great. Happy for you. Awesome. Please don't forget about that person today that feels forgotten about and just all they need sometimes is someone to take the time and talk to them.
Check in. I'm a check-in crazy person. Check in.
And thank you, because man, this is great.
I do. All right. So I had to take myself off camera a few times. Not that I haven't cried on camera before, but woo. Tell them the best way that they can find out more about your art and reach out to you. I mean, if you can't tell that Jose is exactly like this is not for show. This is who Jose is. And you need somebody to reach out to. Trust me, he would, and I know I would. I'd rather you reach out than feel like you have no one to reach out to. So, what's the best way they can find out about your art and reach out to the one and only Jose Belen?
Absolutely. So I have my website up that, I'm figuring out myself building it, but you can go to artbyjosebelen.com now. You can read more about my story. You can certainly send me a message or sign up for emails to keep engaged that way. Facebook, you can reach me at Art by Jose Belen on my Facebook page. Shoot me a DM. My email address is artbyjosebelen@gmail.com. If you're on Instagram, I'm under Jose Belen Official. And what I do is share my journey in hopes of, inspiring someone, that today they may have thought should be their last day, but they're like, wait a minute, I see myself in that. Maybe I can do that too. And that's the whole key here is we can do it together.
Beautiful. I love you, and I'm so thankful you're here. I mean that.
Likewise.
All right, guys, reach out to Jose, artbyjosebelen.com, or you can find him on social media. Thank you. Just thank you. It was beautiful. All right. Love you. We'll see you later. Don't feel like you're alone. We're here. There are people here.
Always.
Reach out. Reach out.
Love you,
all right.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody. We'll see you soon.
Bye-bye.